kit and cat. So we're doing something a little different this time. We're actually going to take you guys along. We're going to go on a road trip. As you can see, we've got Diana in the back seat, and we are headed off to Fabric Friends and Dolls. Get her some outfits, possibly. We need some more shoes for the Smart Dolls. And just kind of wanted along the route, talk about our history.
This is our Smart Doll journey.
There we go. Our Smart Doll journey.
Except it's not the Smart Doll named journey.
So this is probably our 5th or 6th trip out to Fabric Friends and Dolls. Our first one was actually in 2016. I was working for a company and had some bonus money burning a hole in my pocket, and convinced him that we needed to go to this doll shop in Gaithersburg so I could pick up a couple of Japanese dolls. And I'm not sure if he was too enthused about the trip at that time.
There weren't even any stores around there to tempt me with.
So how we got started with dolls and Smart Dolls and doll collecting. When we met, Cory mentioned that he was an AFOL, adult fan of Lego. And I was all on board for it. So he got me into Friends Lego at that time. And I had a lot of fun putting together the little shops and stores and stuff. Well, buying Lego meant we were in the toy section. And who saw Monster High dolls first? You or me?
I think you.
And I collected tons of Monster High dolls. So my favorite character was Goliath. And yours?
Abby Abominable. Any girl who talk in Russian accent make me happy.
So I like the little dirty one. Anyway, and for some reason with the Monster High dolls, I found Barbie groups and then found Silkstone dolls. And those kind of intrigued me because I never really liked Barbie as a kid, but I was really getting into the details and stuff of these Monster High dolls, and the Silkstone dolls just really appealed to me. The vintage fashions and stuff. And with the Friends, I was really enjoying the building the little scenes. And I had done doll houses before, 1/12 scale, but due to eyesight and age, that was a bit small, so I started seeing on Pinterest and stuff, people were making 1/6 scale dioramas, and that just blew my mind. And some of my favorite dioramas had these Japanese Momoko dolls. And that was it. I had to have some of those. I found Remint, the Japanese miniatures, and Cory helped me build a room box of a Japanese maid cafe with kind of a Paris theme. So I insisted that I had to have these dolls to go in that diorama. Went online and searching, and we found one place that had these dolls, and she had some of them on sale. So it took a little bit of coaxing, but he finally agreed to go. So 2016, we go to Fabric Friends and Dolls, and I immediately ask, where are the Momokos, Saguchi, but there's a lot of dolls in there at that time. At that time, she was also selling tonners and jeans and fashion royalty. And while I'm picking my doll, Cory kind of starts to wander around the store.
Well, there wasn't a whole lot of store to wander around in, and I didn't have to wander around to spot anything because it's a straight shot, and back in the back are these two anime dolls wearing actual jeans and t-shirts. Pretty sure it was the original Mirai and the original Kazuna, and they were both wearing the baseball, what do they call them?
Yeah, the Raglan baseball shirt.
Raglan tees.
With the orange logo.
And boots, and they were absolutely adorable and huge.
Well, it was Joe that decided, he told you to take a closer look at them, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
He gave you the map to Tokyo where the dolls were made.
Well, I was actually planning to go to Tokyo. That trip was already planned and booked. And I think that was coming up like a month or two after this visit.
Yeah, I think that was April, because I remember I did remember that I had the bonus check from work, and that's where I had the money for the other two dolls, which you still thought like $250 was ridiculous for two.
I thought they were like
dolls.
$80 a piece.
No, they were like $125.
You're ridiculous. Paying that much for a doll that's not a smart doll.
I still have them.
And how much do you play with them?
Yeah, that's true.
They just stand in the bakery with no customers.
I think I remember you sitting there like grabbing my arm and showing me the price tag on them.
There was no price tag. We had to.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So you were talking about your anime and how you like to collect the statuettes, and I know you've got a few favorites.
Well, way back, there were a few animes that I really got into and were favorites of mine. Was always a big fan of Love Hina. Chobits was a big favorite of mine, and I was able to pick up some figures of them on eBay. Even found a couple at yard sales, but this was way back when I lived down in Texas, and a lot more opportunities than the rural West Virginia town we're in now. So I had amassed quite a collection of figures.
So Smart Doll's kind of like a statuette you can move.
Well, you have to remember that all of my anime figures and statues, my cats, whatever you want to call them, the biggest one I've got is maybe 11 inches, maybe. So the concept of a 2-foot doll anime figure was very appealing to me.
The entire trip back home, that's all we kept talking about was these two ridiculous dolls. They were 2 feet tall.
They were adorable, though.
So we get home, he pulls up the website.
This was way back in the day, and it kind of looked like he had kind of just started, and to me it looked like he had found a template for how to put together a business proposal, and he was going through and he was answering all the questions. And so the how to start a business, I could just imagine that it said, okay, if you're going to try and market a new product, one of the things you have to do is explain what problem your product will solve. Yeah, that's how you sell your product. The part that cracked me up was Danny at that time, I don't even know if he still has it on there, but it said, what problem does Smart Doll solve? And that just cracked me.
And he was also showing at that time, we now know that it was just typical of Danny's humor. It was kind of a practical joke on people, but he was showing off the Smart Doll Plus and how Smart Doll was supposed to be smart, like your smartphone or some kind of Bluetooth enabled device, and how these Smart Doll Plus were going to be able to walk around and talk and everything else, and that reminded him of one of his favorite animes.
Well, he actually did flat out state that it was to be Chi from Chobits, which is one of my favorites. And about that time, he was doing the USB torsos, and he was kind of doing the mock-up of the ones that he put motors in the arm, and they would roughly wave, and he kept saying, "Oh, we're going to keep working on this." And so once he said, "Yeah, we're working on it so you can have your very own Chi," I was hooked.
So yeah, that kind of started 3 years of stalking Smart Doll and sorry Danny online. Every once in a while we would get to joking about the trip and these ridiculous dolls, and that's what we kept referring to them as, these ridiculous expensive dolls. And oh my gosh, I went on YouTube, I found videos. Some of the earliest ones were the Kodamas, and it was one of his really early videos where he was showing he had done a photo book, like a coffee table book, and had photos of, I think it was a Chitose behind him, and I was just enamored. I mean, I knew the dolls were posable, but it hadn't really dawned on me how good they could look if you actually tried to do portrait photography. And I had, years earlier, I had actually been a manager for a portrait studio, and I studied photography in college and stuff, and that just drew me. But at the time, I was still doing stuff with the 1/6 scale dolls, and started doing some kind of like little photo stories, and we did the camping in the backyard. We're here at Fabric Friends and Dolls, and she's just got this little shop. It says Dolls above the door, kind of tucked into this little shopping center here in Maryland. And it really is more than just smart dolls. She has been around for quite a while, and we're hoping maybe she'll kind of answer some questions and talk to us about her adventure in doll collecting and offering dolls. When we first came in 2016, she had a lot of Robert Tonner dolls and fashion royalty dolls and several other lines. A lot of BJDs. Over the past 3 to 5 years, her inventory has changed a few times to keep track with interests that doll collectors may have. She's got a couple of Japanese Poppy Parkers that I would love. She has switched over to carrying more of the imported dolls, the A-Zone International and that. There used to be a doll group that would meet here, but with COVID, she is appointment only, and the doll group has been told that they can meet in the parking lot, but I don't know if you guys can see behind me. It's a pretty busy spot. I don't really see this being all that great, but the group would meet in there regularly and exchange doll stuff as well as shop. So we're gonna go in and talk to Iris. We're gonna see if we can find we need some more shoes, 11 dolls. I think we only had 4 pairs of sneakers or 5 pairs of sneakers, so we really need to up our shoe game. Find Diane something that is more appropriate for summer. I love her outfit, I love her look, but it just seems to be more for colder weather, colder climes than what she needs here. So we just finished up with our time in Fabric Friends and Dolls with Iris. Iris was really sweet and allowed us to kind of do a interview with her about the history of Fabric Friends and Dolls and doll collecting, and off camera. So we'll be discussing some of her answers and her questions. And Diane is in her seatbelt, all ready to go back. And yeah, that's what you think it is. So we're headed home now. We had an excellent visit and an excellent time, and we'll see you guys in a little bit. So we are headed back home. While we were in Fabric Friends and Dolls, we were lucky enough to be able to sit down and do a short interview with Iris. Now she was working on some shipments from Culture Japan while we were in there, so she didn't want to be on camera, but she was very nice to answer our questions and give us some information about the history of her shop, as well as some more general views, opinions, insight into the doll collecting world in general and her part in it. And Cory also got to speak with Joe, her husband, and Joe gave him some interesting tidbits about the shop and the two of them. So I got to sit down with Iris, Cory and I both did, and we got to interview Iris about the history of Fabric Friends and Dolls. And I asked her a few questions. She was really, really sweet to answer those questions for us. She didn't want to be on camera because she was wearing her mask, so she didn't want to be on camera in the mask. But we did have a very pleasant chat and kind of wanted to go over some of the things that we talked about. And one of the first questions I asked her was kind of the history of Fabric Friends and Dolls and how she got started as part of this doll community. And Iris actually said that she'd actually been in this business over 30 years. And originally, she actually was a crafter. She made fabric dolls and bears and doll clothing, i.e. fabric friends and dolls. And at that time, she indicated that they had a shop in the old Red Barn, or the old barn.
They called it the old Red Barn.
They call it the old Red Barn. And she sold Boyd's bears, which I know you guys are probably familiar with those. They're collectible bears. And as time progressed, the doll collecting community kind of changes, and her inventory did as well. She started carrying more regular, what she called regular fashion dolls, like the Robert Tonner dolls. And I remember our first visit, she had quite a large collection of Robert Tonner dolls and character dolls, dress dolls that were available for sale. Over the course of business, she said about 15, 16 years ago, she actually had a customer that posed a challenge to her. And they said, oh, you'll never be able to get these dolls. Nobody ever gets these dolls. And they gave her a challenge to get a Dollmore doll. And these are ball jointed dolls, or BJDs as they're called. And so she took on the challenge. She said she actually wrote to them like 6 times begging to have a contract or an agreement with them to sell their dolls. And eventually they finally did agree to let her sell these dolls. And she said over time people would come in and they would mention another doll. Have you heard of Lutz? Or, etc. So that's how she actually ended up in the BJD world. So when we were discussing the various doll lines that she's carried over the years, and I kind of asked her, what are some of your favorite doll lines or doll companies? And she talked about how she missed the Marie Osmond dolls. Besides Marie Osmond being a performer, she actually became a porcelain doll artist, and she's quite prolific. She said she liked the old-fashioned dolls, Integrity, Tonner. So we kind of discussed that, and of course now she says Smart Doll is her favorite. Of course, when she mentions Danny, that led us to the next question. How did she get involved, and how did she become the sole distributor of Smart Doll in the U.S.?
In the world.
In the world, yeah.
She is the only person authorized by Danny to sell Smart Dolls, aside from him.
So she wanted to be very clear about what we can and can't say, so we're not going to give any trade secrets or confidential information.
Because she didn't give them to us. We don't have them either, so don't bug us about it. What'd I say? She said nothing.
Actually, she said 6 years ago, when Danny was starting out, and he announced that he was introducing Smart Doll to the world.
Can I have some words in this?
Yes.
I want to talk about
Okay,
stuff.
you want to talk about how she said she met Danny?
Yes.
Okay.
Basically, Iris had a customer who was on their way to the San Diego Comic-Con. And it just so happened that was the year that Danny was going there to introduce Smart Doll to the world. And Iris had looked it up, she'd seen some information about it, and she asked this person who was going to the Comic-Con, would you be willing to take some of my business cards and give them to Danny and tell him that I would be interested in selling his dolls? Basically had a lot of trouble getting the business cards because Danny was very busy at that con. However, the person did meet with Jay, Danny's wife, and left the business cards, and she said that she would get them to him. Well, Iris says that when Danny left the Comic-Con, had a layover in Hawaii, and during that time he called her direct, not going through some business organization or anything else. He called her up and said, I would be interested in having you sell the dolls for me. And when he got back to Japan, they worked out the contract, and that's basically how she became the one and only authorized distributor of the Smart Dolls outside of Culture Japan.
The next question I wanted to ask Iris is kind of, besides Smart Doll, and we know that that's her favorite, that's our favorite as well, what other dolls she thought Smart Doll owners or collectors or those that are interested in these anime style dolls might like. And Iris had a very strong influence and said A-Zone, and she does carry quite a few of the A-Zone dolls. Joe even chimed in a little bit to help her and mentioned that these A-Zone dolls have kind of that same anime aesthetic, and they are jointed. Their looks are compatible, and she mentioned that because of the way that the A-Zone, the Nemo body is built, it's magnetic in the feet, so that they're very posable, especially if you want to do photography, and that she's had customers that are actually buying these as like little sisters or children to go along with their Smart Doll teens and grown-ups.
So one of the things I was curious about was, what are the demographics of your average doll collector? Not just Smart Dolls, but all dolls. Who are Iris's customers? And mostly I wanted to know that because if you look at Danny's site, all of the photos that he showed when he's showcasing them, it's always with basically little girls. And so I want to know, okay, is that the customer base? Mostly because I wanted to know how weird I am. But what Iris said was that for the most part, her customers are in the 20s, 30s, 40s range. But in Japan, that demographic that Danny shows on his site when he showcase photos, that actually is the biggest demographic for Smart Dolls in Japan. Iris said that occasionally she will get somebody coming in and buying a Smart Doll for their little girl, but it's more like a huge reward for straight A's or something like that.
Yeah, or a birthday, and they just buy one doll.
Yeah, they get one doll, that's it. Apparently, the Japanese are more willing to let kids play with very expensive dolls than we are here in America. We want to know how the pandemic had affected her shop, because she is a small business. It is one little store in a strip mall that is kind of in the middle of nowhere. I mean, she's got a barber shop on one side of her and a nail salon on the other, and a 7-Eleven 3 doors down. So it's not like she's this big chain that can make it up in volume. But what she said, which I found kind of surprising, was that the pandemic actually helped her business quite a bit, because she ships all over the country. Her big thing is that she does layaways. That's one of the ways that a lot of the people are getting Smart Dolls who can't afford to just jump on a Danny sale and when he releases them and buy them immediately. She'll do the layaways. And she was getting a lot more. I did also ask, well, were you able to get more to sell because of all of the shipping problems that the pandemic caused? And she said it kind of depended on the company. She said for the most part, it was a delay of a week or two for most of her regular things that she was getting. But one company, it took a month to get everything. So once they got that order, she was pretty much done with them. But I did find that interesting that people were actually buying from her more, and it was very surprising to me. It became obvious that she is doing more online business than local business, people coming into the store. So that actually did surprise me a little bit, that she has such a huge international presence. Her and Joe both had mentioned shipping to other countries. So I thought that was cool, that this little shop in some podunk town in Maryland is basically shipping an international product internationally. The world is a weird place.
So one of the things that question brought up was talking about how it had affected some of the doll world, the doll manufacturers. It's kind of a known that Danny did lose one of his manufacturing partners in Japan. So his production has been a little limited and affected. He hasn't been able to produce quite as many dolls as fast as he used to be able to, and he's always been very protective of his team. So he's trying to balance capacity with the health and mental as well as physical well-being of his team. She said not everybody fared as well. A lot of the fashion dolls are gone now, and it also kind of points towards the future of doll collecting and the doll world. Iris is of the opinion, and I think many are as well, as BJDs, these ball jointed dolls, and dolls like A-Zone, Dolphy Dreams, and Smart Doll really seem to be the future of doll collecting. You can play with them, and Iris mentioned that doll collecting used to be, you got a porcelain doll, it was this beautiful doll, but you sat it on a shelf, and that was about it. And this new trend, although it's not new, but these dolls that you can interact with, you can dress them, you can pose them, you can do photography with them, you can have stories with them, and I think that's awesome. In this day and world, we all need more playtime, more fun time.
Well, I realized as we were getting ready to leave that we had spent like 30 minutes talking to Iris trying to get her history, but every single time we've been in there, so has Joe. I had a little talk with him and said, okay, what's your history on all of this? And he used to sell trading cards. I'm guessing they were sports ones. He didn't actually specify whether they're baseball, football, but I'm guessing sports ones. And he had leased a little space in what he called the Old Red Barn. And at that time, Iris was also selling in this same little red barn. And so, I'm trying to remember exactly how he put it, but basically what it boiled down to is, so we found this place up here, we got married, and now we're here. That was essentially what it boiled down to from his explanation to me. And I talked to Joe and asked him what exactly his role was in the shop, because he's always there. He said technically he's CEO. However, when he told me that his duties involved taking this to the post office, getting down that box, I have to assume that CEO stands for Chief Errand Officer.
That was awesome. It's like a team.
But he kind of keeps to himself the whole time we're in there, unless something captures his interest and he pipes in about, well, this thing, you remember that thing. But for the most part, he just watches Marshall Dillon.
And Cory was watching Marshall Dillon with him.
Well, it was the one where somebody got shot.
Don't they get shot in every episode?
Shut up.
So we started out this video and this journey talking about how we got started with Smart Doll, and then we talked about Iris and Fabric Friends and Dolls and their part of Smart Doll and the larger doll collecting community. So to wrap up, I think we'll just kind of give some thoughts or voice to some thoughts about what we look forward to in our next 5 years. It's been 2 since we've had the dolls, and where we hope to go with that.
Oh, it's on me? You expect me to have a 5-year plan? I wasn't expecting to have kitten cat shot.
That is true.
Now we're international sellers. We have customers all around the world.
That is fun. I really enjoy seeing the shipping addresses when it says things like Chile and Norway and Switzerland and Germany and
Thailand.
I told him we need to get a world map, and we would just put little flags everywhere our little kids go, and that's just been a hoot. That's just been so much fun, is how large this community is, but at the same time how small it is. I told him I kind of feel that after that box, it just feels kind of like we've got our cast now, and I'm kind of looking forward to character building and storytelling now. I love the idea of the visual storytelling, and that these could be characters, and you invest yourself into them. You care about them as characters, and they really do have their own personalities. For me, I also saw the opportunity, because yes, I was sewing and selling patterns and everything, that this 1/3 scale doll and her proportions, it's fantastic. I get to play fashion designer. I get to do these elaborate designs and tailorings and outfit ideas, and that's just so much fun for me. I love the challenge of actually learning drafting techniques and actually making real patterns, but actual real clothing is just small. And then we got into the jewelry, and that's been so much fun. And the 3D printer, I mean, it's just, they have opened up so many creative outlets for us. Just always stoked. We have ideas for years, I think.
We definitely have more ideas than time.
And we get to share them with you. And every time we get in the car or we start talking about them, more ideas. So, and also the community. It's been fun. We've made some friends. We've got to do some fun things that we wouldn't have otherwise. And now that the pandemic seems to be kind of winding down and things are getting back to a new normal, we really look forward to actually getting to do some travel and incorporating these dolls in our travel photography and our documenting our trips.
Hi, this is Cory. It wasn't until we got this far in the editing process that I realized that with everything else we had going on this trip, we absolutely totally forgot to film any kind of an ending. So I'm going to give you this voiceover while I show a few of the pictures that we took from inside Fabric Friends and Dolls. Want to thank you all for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, and click on the notification icon so you can see when we publish a new video, like the one that will be coming soon where we unbox everything that was in the bag you saw in this video. If you have any comments, please put them down below, and don't forget to find us on social media and visit our store, kitandcatshop.com. Thank you all for watching. We hope you've enjoyed this, and we hope to see you again next time.